Descriptions of
Hi, Nikki.
their background as it relates to it.
Hi, all.
Oh, I can hear you again now.
Okay, great.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
Are you still waiting for a few more people to join join you at the office?
Yeah.
Yes, we'd love to.
Oh, we are?
Oh,
Jogging?
anybody,
Are you-
we'd love to have you. It's going to be
sorry.
a nice group.
I don't know where you were teaching this.
So far,
you wanna
we've
start
only
with
had
the
women
start?
register, which I'm not
What
surprised.
do you think? That's all right.
Yeah, I mean, we got a decent amount of stuff to cover, and it's
We'll leave the door open for the first like 15 minutes or so. And then
we're not going to
right?
laugh about. Perfect.
Yeah, exactly. Cool.
Actually, as I was walking in, I just got another registration for events right
So
now.
can you guys hear me okay on the
But we can
on the webinar?
5 people in the room. So
Yeah, I can hear you. You sound good.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, so we're gonna get started here and kick this thing off. And thank you, whether you're here in person or on the webinar. We're with NJ Advanced Media, and just a brief overview of who we are and what we do. NJ Advanced Media is part of Advanced Publications, one of the largest media companies in the U.S. We have global brands, so we're part of Condé Nast, Vogue, Glamour, GQ, Architectural Digest, which is under the Advanced umbrella, as well as Advanced Local, which are 12 news and information properties run by Advanced Local and Advanced Digital. So NJ.com is our affiliate in New Jersey, as well as SI Live for Staten Island, Syracuse.com in Syracuse, Lehigh Valley Live.com, which is in PA, all the way out to Oregon, and we've got OregonLive.com there as well. And then we own a lot of newspapers and print affiliates across the country. So as you can see, kind of the footprint on who we are. We're also a Google Premier Partner, and the only digital marketing company that was awarded the Microsoft Digital Marketing Partner of the Year award 3 years in a row, 2013 through 2015. We're in the running again this year. So just to get an understanding of who we are in the marketplace, who we are in the space. Today we're predominantly going to be talking about SEM and SEO, and we'll dig into that. And to get an understanding of who we are in this particular space, we've built our own and operated properties from scratch. So we clearly understand how to build large websites. We're publishers, so obviously we understand the power of content. We've got award-winning content writers on staff, as well as experts in optimization that understand, the ins and outs and best practices and ongoing changes with algorithms and what we need to do to rank our sites organically, and that helps. We use that same team and expertise to provide those best practices to our clients to help them get the benefit of what they're looking for as well. So enough about, and my name is Bill Cook. I'm the Director of Search, Paid Search, and SEO for NJ Advanced Media. So on to the agenda. What we would like to do is really get an understanding of what you guys want to know about. So when we asked you to fill out registration, we asked what you'd like to get out of this session. So some of the stuff that we got from you in terms of feedback, we built the strategy around talking to these points today to make it educational for you and making sure that hopefully a lot of your questions are being answered as we go. This is a small, quaint group, so as you have questions, either use the chat feature if you are on the webinar, and Nikki can help us facilitate that, or obviously if we have questions here, we can answer them as we go. So some of you had said you'd like to gain a better understanding of SEO and SEM in general, that you're looking for current best practices, a better understanding of how SEM and analytics work, learning more about the analytical side with active campaigns, and understanding both off-site content marketing strategy as well as managing your own website to make sure it's not only searchable but it's user-friendly, which is a lot of what we're going to cover today. So we had a great conversation to start, and we were talking a lot about audiences and making sure that you know, SEM and SEO, though that's my world, it also has its place in marketing. We never think that we should have one solution to help get the audience or accomplish the goals that we want. So we always want a good diversified mix of marketing strategies working together to get to the end result. So we've created this around Google's micro moments, which is a lot of understanding your audience in that far left corner and targeting that audience at the right time. So I'm going to kind of read through the different modes of the audience and the consumer path that they take to eventually connect with your business and hopefully become a customer of yours. So first we look at the pre-market. The pre-market is I want to know moments, I want to do moments, I want to go there. These are the beginning stages of establishing interest and intent. Really looking at standing out for these audiences, which eventually will move forward into that I want to make a purchase. They're just not there yet. So the goal in this section is really creating brand awareness about the brand, your location, providing helpful information, and you can do that through a few different solutions. One is audience targeting, which you can do through desktop, mobile, social, print display ads. We also highly subscribe to responsive rich media, which is video ad formats in a very engaging way. As we were talking about the importance of images earlier, you know, it's a very engaging way to help have an audience understand more about your business and engaging with that business before they actually make that first attempt to contact you, as well as the importance of content marketing and email marketing with press releases, and really just standing out with great information and helpful insights into what's going on with your company through PR and or reaching out to your audience where they consume their content comfortably. Then we get into the in-market channel, and this is where interest and intent have been established and people are ready to move forward to contacting a business. And this is a lot of where SEO and paid search come into play. So in this section, the goal is really capitalizing on that audience that's ready to take action, namely through website visits, phone calls, any form fills or appointment requests that they can make through your website. Some of the great solutions that help connect these two goals and audiences are search retargeting, YouTube marketing, SEO obviously, which we'll talk about, paid search as well, and site retargeting, which we'll mention as a great add-on to what paid search can bring to the table. And then there's the post-market. So the post-market is all about customer advocacy, making sure that you've established a loyal customer baseline and that you continue to keep your top-of-mind brand awareness with that base so that you can help facilitate additional needs and services after that initial contact. So really what you're trying to do is stay relevant and gain market share by referrals and things of that nature. So once we understand what our audience is, it's always good to take a step back and look at what Google is. And we look at Google because it's the monster, it's the gorilla in the search space. It has about 64% share of all the searches taking place on Google sites. So when you understand what Google is and what they're trying to accomplish, it makes it a lot easier to understand what we need to do as businesses to help get our visibility to improve. So Google's goal is to get users to their website, to find and engage in something within 8 seconds of their search and leave their site and not come back. Their goal is to have an engaging experience with the website that they land on and move forward with that engagement. Obviously, eventually they like you to come back, and the reason they're doing that is because their business model is built on gaining market share. They want to make sure that they stay within that 64, 68% market share and that they continue to grow it over their competition. The only way they're going to do that is if we as users continue to engage with the websites that they give us because of the relevancy between what we're searching for, and they're providing us a good customer experience. So ultimately, when you look at what Google is, Google's a business like any other, right? What are they looking to do? They're looking to provide good, superior customer experience, providing helpful services for us as their users, and a good customer convenience. Their goal ultimately is to retain their existing customers, to gain more market share, and to be profitable through revenue growth. And if they do that, they get more people to come back and use their search engine, and they continue to either maintain or grow their market share. So understanding that, it's really critical to understand how your website plays out into these rankings and how Google wants to make sure they're promoting that best website that answers the question and continues that engagement between what I search for, where I go, and what the engagement is with that business. So they're constantly 500 to 600, sometimes 800 times a year changing the algorithms to make sure that they've got spam sites out of the way so that we as users have a better engagement with the sites that are there. So if you focus your website and your landing page properties on your customers and providing your customers the best experience, that ultimately will be the best road for you to optimize for also search engine optimization. So, you know, there's a lot of key points behind that, and we'll go into it further, but know that it's all about your customers, and that's what Google is, that's their model as well. So search, and a big reason why we're still talking about search these days, even though it's been around for a while, is it still is driving a lot of effective lead generation. Just last year, it still had 50% of total digital ad revenues in the search category, and that's search and SEO. In 2014, SEM and SEO were considered the most effective at 85% of online retailers to driving and acquiring the most amount of new business. So obviously there's a method to the tracking capabilities that you have through SEM and SEO, but there's a lot of great ways that you can get to that in-market crowd looking to convert, proactively looking for a business to connect with. And when you combine SEM and SEO, there's roughly between a 12 to 32% combination of conversion rate. And you think about real estate, right? If you're in more places, you've got more opportunity to be chosen. So you just want to consider that as a marketing opportunity to get both visibility and paid and organic. So staying with the high-level explanations, search engine marketing is in the orange section here. It's also known as SEM. It's also called paid search advertising, and it's also called pay-per-click. among a lot of different things. SEO is much different. SEO is this section, this blue section here, the maps, the organic section here, and it's deemed search engine optimization, or SEO. It's relying mainly on organic and natural search, and it's earned placement based on the value of your website and how relevant that site is to answering the queries that are being sought out by users like us. And it's all about your website and brand optimization online. So again, we'll take an even deeper step in a few minutes. But the idea is, if your business can appear here where your customers are proactively searching for you, whether they're just doing research about your business, if you get all your business through word of mouth, there's an easy way that people can find your website as long as it's indexed. And there's a good way that you can capture audiences who don't know about you, whether they're in their pre-market research moments, or whether they're in their in-market, ready to connect, hire, and buy moments. So we're going to take a step further here and talk about paid search specifically. So in essence, this is how it works. Potential customer goes to Google. They type in the keyword that they're looking for. Here we're using custom home builders, Princeton, New Jersey. And these are the paid search sections. There's typically 3 to 4 ads at the top and 3 ads at the bottom. We'll talk about some of the changes that took place recently. Your ad would show up in the section under the ads. We pulled it apart over here as number 2. So once the ad shows up, at this point you still haven't spent any dollars. So that's a great feature about paid search, is you can get a lot of visibility and not have to pay until the ad is actually clicked on and they get to your web page. So in that case, there's a lot of value, because if they're not going to click on you, you can get your brand name visible. If they are going to click on you, it's probably somebody interested, and a good way to continue the buying process. So again, down here, you only pay when someone clicks on your ad. So some of the best practices in terms of paid search or search engine marketing, despite the fact that it's a pay-per-click model, content is still king. And I will venture to say it always will be, whether it's in images or whether it's in actual text content. The reason we're saying this is because there's a lot behind that relevancy when we're talking about Google providing us the best websites to answer our questions, right? If we just allowed the biggest companies with the biggest budgets to get those top positions, it wouldn't be the greatest model for Google to continue to get market share or maintain their market share. So they're always infusing into this quality and relevancy much more so than what people are willing to spend. And this is how Google's model works. It allows it to be very competitive. It allows people to say, even though I don't have a budget that, let's say, as an insurance agency, I can compete with a Geico nationwide. But there are areas where I can break in here, and there are times of the day that I can maximize a smaller budget and still make an impact and get customers. So it's very efficient in terms of making sure that it's not all around budget, but it's around relevancy as well. So what I mean by that is, when you go back to this slide, the search query, how it pertains to the ads and the ad content that populate here, and how it pertains to the content that's actually on the page, build up what's called the quality of your campaign. So Google's looking at additional factors like how the ad formats that you're using here. Are you using different site links? Are you using, request a quote or contact us buttons? Are you using location buttons if somebody's got a brick and mortar location they can visit? So extensions of that matter. If it's mobile, do you have a click to call to make it easier for the users to just contact you without clicking through to your site? Looking at ad formats, looking at things like click-through rate, how many times you're clicked on versus how many times you're actually shown. So there's a lot behind this quality that makes up your ad rank. So when we look at this relevancy and quality versus budget, it's typically what we see. The quality end is around 65% of the total ranking weight of your paid search ads. So budget comes into play, obviously, but it's not as important as relevancy. And that's really important to how Google has their model and helps businesses of all sizes compete. To that end, in terms of quality, and we talked about the website and the content of that website, you really want to take it and view your website as if you were your customer, right? If you got to that website, what would you think? Would you spend time there? Would you leave right away and create what we call a bounce rate? Ask your customers what they think of your website and get feedback, and then take that next step and ask a marketer as well. So you're getting multiple avenues of feedback on your website, on your content, on your user friendliness, your navigation. Is it easy to find things? Kind of like when we go to the grocery store and we're putting all our groceries out and they're cashing us out and they say, did you find everything okay? You know, they also want to know, in terms of our store, in terms of our location, in terms of our customer experience, did you find what you're looking for? Can I help you find anything else? So this is a good start to not only optimizing your website, but improving the quality of a paid search campaign that can actually reduce to your budget and make your budget go a lot farther in terms of your cost per click. What's really important here about best practices always in any type of marketing solution, and we were talking about there's no silver bullet, right, discussion before we kicked off the webinar. It's really important to measure realistic goals and effectiveness in order to determine what your return on investment could be. Establishing these goals helps you set those key indicators along the way, and you know, we had talked about everybody wanting, you know, that first position organically, and everybody's fighting to get that first position. But is that really as important as getting the number of customers that you're looking for, or getting the amount of brand awareness that you need in the marketplace? So really look at those different types of audiences, those different types of markets, those different types of audience solutions. Each one of those has a different measurable aspect that we can learn a lot from and potentially work together to get to an end result. So we really want to set up what those goals are from the beginning in order to measure the success of the campaign and then make adjustments along the way. We can't do that if we don't have the goals up front, right? Also be informed of recent updates and opportunities. So as we look at paid search in February, Google had removed the right rail. So there used to be 3 ads at the top, ads down the right rail, and then ads at the bottom. Basically moved from 11 ads down to 7. So they've removed the entire right rail. They've got up to 4 at the top that you can have. So again, if we give a visual, this section here under, you can see 3 ads here to the left. So there'll be 3 to 4 depending on the competitiveness of that category and how people are searching. The right rail now is completely blank. If it's a Google Shopping, it might have product listing ads on the side if it's e-commerce. If it has you know, Google Knowledge Graph, which tells more about certain companies in terms of their hours of operation, their reviews and ratings, and then there's ads at the bottom. So knowing that these changes have taken place, it's important to stay up with that and see how that affects your campaign, your bid strategy, and if your cost per click might be rising because there are less ads to compete in. So it's really important to just stay up on what changes are taking place. Now, usually Google gives you a tip-off if you're watching closely, much earlier than when they actually pulled the trigger on their results. So for this example, a lot of people felt that they were blindsided that the right rail was removed when, in effect, Google's been testing this since 2010. And what they're really looking at is how do we make the experience on what most people are doing these days, which is searching mobilely versus desktop, to make it a consistent experience from what I see on my mobile device and what I'm comfortable with to what I see on my desktop. There's also, over the past year, we've even seen it on our websites at nj.com, that mobile traffic has now surpassed our desktop traffic. And that's a huge testament to what people are doing, always on the go, always in a mobile environment, continuing to use their mobile devices to look at content as they go, whether they're in front of the TV or riding along in the car, not driving, but riding along in the car, or just stationary somewhere, or taking a break at work. Most people always have their mobile device on them. So it's a quick, easy way for people to do those searches. So mobile makes up about 88% of those near me searches. So if you've ever done these, pizza place near me, lawyer near me if you got into an accident or what have you. But those near me searches show a lot of interest and intent to actually moving forward and contacting a business. If you're looking for somebody near you, the chances of you going there is much more likely. We've seen actually a growth year over year of about 46% in people looking for those types of searches. So real estate agent near me, dentist near me. Think about all the transients, the tourists, people moving into new locations. Is a good way for them to quickly find out how they're going to acclimate to their new surroundings. And then there's utilizing things like remarketing and talking about opportunities. Remarketing is a great way for people at a very low cost to stay in front of people who have been to your website. So these are people who, in paid search, they went to Google, they've done the search for your business, they see your ad, they click on you, you've just incurred a minor charge for that click, which is well worth it because you have an interested person on your website. And then for whatever reason they're browsing your site, maybe they're still in that, I'm not ready to call yet, but this looks like a good company, so I'm going to leave and do some other things because my work, lunch is over and now I got to get back to business. So utilizing something like remarketing actually puts pixels on the browser of the visitor to your site. And these cookies allow you to serve ads to them as they go different places on the web. CNN or WebMD or other niche sites. So it allows you to really stay top of mind brand awareness and keep that keep that interaction going. As long as you're meeting a good frequency and recency, you're not like Home Depot that will blast you every 5 seconds you turn on your mobile device. I will never go back to Home Depot, by the way. So make sure that you set that up in terms of what your customers are looking for a nice, easy way, a soft approach to saying, hey, don't forget we're here for you when you're ready. So always think about remarketing. It's something that we always talk about in paid search is a good low-cost effect way to look like your brand is just gigantic and you're standing in front of people you know are already interested in you. So in terms of campaign optimization, whether you're running your own campaign or you're thinking about running your own campaign, it's really important to understand that setting up the right keywords, the geography, and the ads to begin with, because you want the campaign to perform as strongly as it can from the get-go. Again, around building it around those goals and what your audience is, what your target is, what your cost per acquisition is. Those types of things really help in determining the best strategy going forward. But what we do is we look at top performing keywords, and when we're running the campaign along 30, 60, 90 days, we're really looking at this thing called a search query report, which tells us exactly not only the keywords that we're targeting, but what people exactly typed into the search engines to get to and arrive at your website. So that way we can do things like refine that list, filter things out that we don't want to populate for. Here's a hospital system, and they're popping up for jobs, and as an example, even though this is something that they did want, as an example, if they didn't want jobs, and we found this in their search query report, we would write out a negative for jobs, so that if they search for physicians near me, and jobs was inside that query, physician jobs near me, they actually, we would negative that out. That's okay. I can repeat it. But so you can filter out things that are unwanted and make sure dollar continue to go as far as it can. Make sure that any waste or unwarranted traffic continues to get filtered as you go. And it makes setting up some of these keywords to different match types. So there's things that you can target very broad match and say, you know, physician near me, or you can be very hypersensitive saying, you know, general practitioner near me, or family physician near me, and you can get to that exact keyword to help drive your cost per click down, and then again make your budget go a lot farther. So look at those top performing keywords, and we highly recommend pulling search query reports and continuing to filter the list. We look at it as a funnel effect. So get closer and closer to what your clients are typing in and looking for. Always look at competitive placement and share of market, right? So competitive placement is great. Obviously, you know, in paid search, it's a little different. Not everybody wants that top spot. If you can get it with high quality in the campaign, you can actually pay a very low cost per click. But a lot of people do wind up paying a lot for that top spot. So you want to look at your placement. You also want to look at your market share, and this is really critical. If what we do is we put the keywords in the geography as a 100% pie, right? And we look at that pie on a 30-day basis and say, well, you're visible for 30% of that pie. So if you have 100 searches, you're visible for 30 of them. That's your market share in your keywords and your geography versus all your competitors. So at that point in time, you really want to look back, and this is what we do, is look back at the quality of the campaign. Do you have a good click-through rate? Do you have good ad copy? Is your content on your website, you know, helping facilitate a good quality score? If all those things are going well, then we know that the missing factor is spending more money, is budget. So you really have to determine at that point is if you've got 70% invisibility, how much more business could you handle? Because you know if it's going well at that point with a very limited visibility, if you increase it, you can start to put math behind it and percentages behind. If I increased it by 20% and I've got a 10% click to call, so 10% of the people who click into my website actually pick up and call me, which are things you can track through paid search, you can start to put together the ROI behind if I improve my budget and visibility by X amount, I should see Y amount back. And it's a very efficient way, if you're working with a good marketing partner, to figure out exactly where you can go in terms of increased business. Looking at top performing ads is always a good place to start as well. You want to see what people are engaging with. Again, it's all about that content. So I would also recommend you do something called A/B testing. And you want to look at the gamut here. So you do want to look at top performing ads, and you want to write additional ads to compete with them. See if you can outperform them over the next 30 days. That said, you also want to look at the ads that are getting a lot of impressions. So they're appearing, but they're not getting a good click-through rate. So people aren't engaging with them and getting to your website. That's a telltale sign right there that it's not a keyword fix necessarily because you're relevant, you're showing your ad. But if your ad is not engaging enough and people aren't clicking through, it tells you that there's an opportunity to optimize that content, make it, maybe add some specials, maybe add a different call to action, maybe say something a little bit different about what you do. You know, glean some areas of opportunity from what you know is working through your top ad, apply them to some of those ads that aren't getting the click-through rate, and help optimize the campaign from there. So again, the nice thing about paid search is that you can make changes as you go, and that's really what you want to do with a good marketing strategy. Don't just try something and say, that didn't work and we're done with it. You always have to optimize to figure out how do I get the best result out of this, no matter what type of advertising you're doing. So this is a good way to just understand how that's done. And as we talked about the importance of mobile as well as tablet, you want to just understand how your audience reach is occurring across multiple devices. A lot of times these days, as we said, even with NJ.com, we're seeing mobile surpass desktop. So if you're not mobile optimized, if you're not mobile friendly, if you're not bidding high on mobile in terms of paid search, that could be a real area of opportunity that you can grow with how your audience is consuming your content these days. So just to recap, paid search, the benefits, and I got to do a time check there. Okay, 12:35. So the benefits are there's immediate visibility to attract in-market brands. Okay, in-market people ready to buy, ready to connect with you. It is the faucet, right? So everyone's got a sink. You want paid ads to work. Turn on the faucet. You're there. Within 7 to 10 days after building the campaign. Once it's live, you've got live bidding that you're available to be on page 1 of Google if you've got the right budget, right bids, and right focus. So it is very immediate. We also like to think about it as a paycheck versus a 401k. You do something today, get a paycheck. It's more immediate than a 401k, which takes some time, which we'll get into that as the SEO. Benefit, pay only for the clicks of people who land on your designated website or landing pages. Always a benefit, right? I'm not going to pay until somebody interested gets to my site. That's a plus. Google does have, as well as Bing and Yahoo and the major engines, they all have click fraud protection. So if you're thinking that competitors are just going to sit there and click away, they've got ways that they remove those charges before you get billed on a monthly basis. So they're very, that's their revenue model, paid search. So they're very concise with how they're tracking and understanding click fraud. Real-time bidding technology is out. It's been out for a while. It's really helping to manage competitiveness and efficiency of budget. So if you're running a paid search campaign on your own, it's going to be hard to compete with a real-time bidding platform that can go in and rebid, let's say, every hour. Because every time someone does a search, it's a live auction bid. So in order to really compete, it's hard manually to ever reset bids as often as you need to stay competitive, whereas real-time bidding technology can do that for you. We talked about ad rank, determined mainly by campaign quality and then bid budgets. So always think your customers first, your content, your relevancy. That is key. Simplifying your paid search campaigns into one consolidated customer reporting tool. That's a lot. That's a mouthful. Ultimately, what we're saying here is don't just look at Google. Bing has some Bing now is the last February report I saw accumulated about 20 to 21% market share. So Microsoft sites are very critical. Our Bing partners, obviously, they're going to post, the value of their site, but they do show very high click-through rate, very high conversion rate, and maybe that's a product of less traffic, less impressions, but it's still a good avenue to be in front of 20% of your market. There's less competition, and usually the cost per click is less. So I would always look at allocating some dollars to Bing as well as a good way to make sure you've got good visibility. They also have a lot of detail about their typical audience base is college-educated individuals who have higher income. So considering that fact, and you can find this out through going to bingads.com, find out more about their search engine, or talk to your marketing partners as a way to leverage that platform. Plug, check. So tracking metrics are really important. You can track phone calls, form fills, e-commerce purchases, appointment bookings. We've got some colleges and universities that are tracking financial aid forms and admin applications and things of that nature. So really good ways to continue to see how well the campaign is performing. And if you're using that real-time bidding technology, if there's a conversion optimization element, it will take those keywords that are performing those types of conversions and reallocate the budget to where those conversions started, what keywords people are typing in. And that, again, makes your budget go that much farther. So from here, we move into SEO. This is a little bit longer of a process. But again, what we like to do is simplify as much as we can. The importance of your website is really critical. Unless you own an app, your website is really the only property online you're ever going to own. You don't own your paid search ads. You don't own your Facebook page. You don't own any content marketing that's paid for. So what you really want to do is look at building up the equity in your website, because that is typically the anchor to all of your advertising. You've got whatever you've got out there in terms of content or social posting. There's usually a link back to your website. Specifically with paid search and SEO, it's all about your website. So it's really important to look at optimizing that experience for your users to make sure that you're getting more conversions and visibility. So what we do is we equate the website to the kitchen in your home, right? If you're looking at building equity in your home, you usually start with the one room that most people visit. You want the most resale value for the room that you're going to update. So we look at SEO renovations is pretty much the same thing as what you do in your kitchen. You hire people, or you can do it yourself. But really what you're trying to do is build overall equity in that website. So it goes from a place that, when you walk in, you're kind of like, I don't know if I want to be here, or, might be some cockroaches running around, or not really the place I want to eat, to, wow, look at that kitchen, this is exactly, I could live in here, this is great for entertaining, it's a good environment to be in. So obviously we want, the after SEO renovations, and we like to equate it to the kitchen experience, because most of us have a kitchen, and it's a little bit easier to understand promoting your value in your overall equity that you own. So in terms of SEO, we have an acronym ART that's really important to how we go about building your equity. We focus on that you're authoritative in your industry. That's the A. The R stands for relevance, that you're unique, engaging content that you have for your customers, and that you're trusted for the T online, and that's beyond search engines. So we'll talk about each one of those aspects. But the overall end result is that you've got greater audience engagement. We're, again, back to your own customers. If you can really appeal to what your customers are looking for, the content that they're looking to read, the answers to their questions. So one specific thing that I always see is, and try to coach around, is the FAQ page that people have on their website. And it's great that you've got things that people can go and see, I got a question and here's the answer, I've got this question. But it would help a lot of people if that question and answer was already infused in the content that they started with. They only really go to the FAQ page if your content didn't really answer their question. So if you can understand what are the types of things that my customers ask when they call me, because they're not being answered on the front end. Now, if that's hours of operation, there's an easy fix to that. But if it's, so tell me more about XYZ. How do you do this, for me? Or, here's what I'm looking for. Do you have this? If you can answer those questions within your content, you have a much better opportunity of that next conversation with you and that person when the connection happens is, how do I hire you? Or how do I join your company? Or how do we connect? Because I've seen everything I needed to see. So ultimately, you're appealing to your customers. You're getting greater visibility organically through Google, Yahoo, Bing, so that you can be more consistent with your online or in-store or business conversions. So when we break down SEO a little bit further, we break it down in two different aspects. We break it down in on-page optimization, which is basically what your web pages communicate to your visitors, right? That engagement. We just talked about that. Then there's off-site optimization. And this is a big piece to what we know in terms of how we build websites and how we get organic rankings, that off-site optimization is critical. And this is how your brand is connected to other authoritative properties across the internet, and potentially share the user experience, either sending them out and giving them a better experience after they leave your website, or bringing them in from other sites that you're connected with that will, again, be a better experience for your users. Together, there's over 200 different factors of on-page and off-page elements, and your scores against those are what make up organic rankings, essentially. So when we talked about earlier, the paid search being like a paycheck, this is your 401k, okay? This is patience, it's consistent input. Remember that organically you're earning those positions, not like paid search where you're paying for them. So you have to be relevant over a long period of time. Otherwise, the search engines are looking at it and saying, well, this guy was relevant last month, but 3 months past that, and we're looking at who's relevant today. They're constantly looking at how do they get the most relevant, the most up-to-date information within their engine. So you want that strategy to be long-term. You want that strategy to stretch out month over month in order to show the search engines that we're trying to be relevant over a long period of time. That only helps your customers. So the real benefit of how we see SEO is a total surround sound marketing strategy, okay? Where there are aspects of your channels between, if people just come to your site direct, they type in www.yourwebsite.com and they get to your website. SEO affects that interaction because good SEO is writing good content on your web pages and cleaning up the back-end coding to make sure that the search engines can also see what's there. Optimizing images to make the pages load a lot faster. So whether people come through a search engine or not, SEO affects the direct traffic and engagement there. It affects paid search because, again, it's about that quality. So if the content on your website is robust and you've got good ad content that you can write from that, it helps to give you a better quality score and lower your cost per click. So it helps your dollar go farther. So again, it helps paid search as well. It helps referrals because if you have a backlinking strategy, which we'll talk about, which is very important in terms of SEO, you've got links from other authoritative sites that drive traffic back to your site. So those sites that drive that traffic are referral channels. You come from WebMD, you've got a link there, they get to your website from WebMD. In your analytics, you'd see that as a referral traffic driver. So SEO, good SEO, affects your referral traffic. It also affects your social traffic as well. You're optimizing your posting. There's a lot of engagement with social sharing that has a lot to do with the algorithms these days as well. So SEO is a full surround sound strategy. It has to be in order for it to work properly. And when we consider organic placement and visibility, we see that as a byproduct of good SEO. We don't see that as the primary goal of ranking on a page, but we see that as you're ranking because you're doing well with your content, because you're meeting your customers' expectations, you're answering their questions, and you're not just saying this on your site, you're saying it on other sites as well that are reputable. So this helps improve the organic rankings for your business. So when we talk about on-site optimization, this is a lot of what we're talking about. Ultimately, the first box is there for a reason. It's all about the user experience, right? If you have a bad user experience, it doesn't matter how they come into your site, they're going to leave, you're going to have a high bounce rate, and that's usually a good sign that SEO is not going well. So you really want people to come into your website and visit multiple pages and stay a lot longer. So those are key aspects that we look at in terms of measuring results organically. We look at on-page content, whether it's writing new content or simply optimizing or refreshing some stale content that's been there for a while. You really want to look at relevance and engagement. The longer you keep them reading on your site, the opportunity for them to convert is much greater. Topic selection, so keyword research, understanding the value of what your customers are looking for. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Title tags and meta descriptions. These are built into the back end of your website. and it actually is how Google determines your organic ranking, your organic ad. So if you don't have a title tag, or if you've got duplications of title tags, if you don't have a meta description, the search engines always need to find something to fit in here. So one big aspect that we see a lot is these meta descriptions are not filled out. So you leave it to the search engine to pull whatever it deems relevant to put into that meta description. Now that's something we equate to taking a double-page spread out in the newspaper and saying to your sales rep, you know what, you fill in the content. You put in, whatever logo you want. You just fill out, whatever you want about our years of service and tell people whatever you want. Nobody would ever do that, right? So why leave it to a search engine to pick out what it thinks it should show your customers? This is a great way, the meta descriptions and title tags, to not only index your pages in the right categories, but also to improve your click-through rate. Tell people what sets you apart from your competition here. Tell people why they should click on you and what they're going to read about once they get to your website. Good indicators. Then we look at some of the other things in terms of page speed, in terms of images, a lot of things that the search engines are looking at that certainly will help improve the visibility of these images. The header tags are kind of like a newspaper headline. You want whatever I searched for to pop up in the title tag in the organic, then you want it to come up in the header tag again to reaffirm to that audience that, hey, this is what I was searching for and it's right here. I'm in the right spot. Now let me read the article. So a lot of what we do is start with the headers. And if it's a deeper understanding that we need, we'll do a website audit. We'll review your website. And a good thing to do is look at this content. Make sure there's no duplication of this content, because content duplication fights with each other for positioning. And they'll basically cancel each other out because there's too many people not doing that. So you want to make sure that you're not duplicating your content anywhere on the web. It's unique. When we look at offsite, and offsite is what we consider a good 70% of what SEO should be. This is your content marketing strategies, your PR, your infographics, your upcoming events, and your social sharing. So all you want here is a strategy that you're writing great content. You're making sure it's going out to the audiences where they consume their content in their frequently visited channels. And then, we're also using YouTube, so a good video content strategy should be optimized on a YouTube channel. It should be claimed. YouTube is the #2 most used search engine out there, also owned by Google. So these are good factors to have when Google is looking at indexing your website. But also you can take those YouTube videos and implement them onto your site as well to make it a lot easier for people to see what it's like doing business with you before they actually call you. Business directories, so there's hundreds of different business directories, from yellow pages over the years, or telephone companies who have established a name, address, and phone number about you in hundreds of different directories and print publications. So it's really important for consistency. If you have a location and you want people to visit your location, that you clean up that name, address, and phone number. So what you would do is you would start on how we call that NAP, your name, address, and phone number. So how do we do that? We take the search engines are looking at your name, address, phone number on your website, whether that's in your footer or across the header or on every page on your website, and they're saying, how consistent is this? Down to the suite, right? We're in suite 2A, right? So is suite abbreviated to STE dot, or is suite spelled out? They're that specific. So in knowing that, then they're looking at your website, they're looking at your Google Plus page, they're looking at your Google My Business page, they're looking at your YouTube channel, they're looking at Yelp, they're looking at Best of the Web, they're looking at Moz, they're looking at hundreds of different websites and data partners out there that house this information about you already. Look at YP.com, look at superpages.com, see what your listing looks like. going through and cleaning these up and making sure they're consistent with what's on your website helps build location trust. And it helps you appear in the map section, especially when somebody does those near me searches. If you want to appear in those map sections, you've got to make sure you've got nav cleaned up.
When the 5-minute mark, if you want to ask for questions, just want to let you know.
Yeah, okay, thanks. Some of the other things we look at in terms of reviews and testimonials, critical, authoritative backlinking, and competitive link research. So a lot of what you want to look at is go in and take a peek at your competitors, right? We look at backlink profiles of your competitors. We figure out what they're doing, what authoritative sites they're linking to, and then we write content and go submit it to those sites to get earned placement and links back from those sites to your site. It helps improve your domain authority, and that's a big factor of how you're seen outside your website in terms of trust. So there's a lot here, and we'll wrap up with just some of the benefits of SEO. But improving the brand visibility, the credibility, those local market referring sites where your NAP is so important. These can all drive different customers and consumers to your web pages. So it's really critical that these things are cleaned up, and it helps you not just on your website, but building your brand across the web. Driving quality traffic to your website or your physical location, 90% of the businesses that I work with, organic is the #1 traffic driver and the #1 converter when you're looking at a marketing source. I always say look into your Google Analytics and look at attribution models and say, if it wasn't, your PR piece that helped, drive that consumer engagement or that ultimate conversion, it may have played a big role in the beginning for brand awareness. And you want to see, did somebody click on that and then come through my organic to actually make that conversion? Google Analytics has a great tie-in to show you ways that different forms of media work together across the buying cycle to get there. So SEO is a lot of that end-all, be-all conversion aspect, but you want to see how it plays out with the different forms of organic optimization that you're working on. Engagement of your target audience with unique site content, increasing conversions, whether that be inquiries, sales sign-ups, or appointment scheduling. It's got traditionally a higher return on investment. There's about a 14.6% close rate in terms of SEO than even if you had your outbound sales team, which has about a 1.7% close rate, and that's a eMarketer study. So almost 13% higher of a close rate you would have if you appeared organically than you would if you had a sales team in here making outbound sales calls on your behalf. Pretty impressive. And it's your opportunity to remain ahead of your competitors as long as you've got consistency with your brand and relevance over a long period of time. This is the 401k. This is the marathon, right? So keep running. Don't slow down because your competitors could lap you. So from here, we had a lot of stuff in terms of Google Analytics, which certainly you'll be able to see in the deck as we send it out. But I wanted to leave some time for questions and make sure that there was some open dialogue there. So Nikki, if you want to let us know if there's anyone in the chat that sends us a message, that would be great. And certainly if you guys have questions, fire away.
So I'll wait till, I guess not.
I don't see any questions in the chat box just yet.
Perfect. Thanks.
I got a couple of questions. One pertains to pay-per-click.
Okay.
What indicates a ratio of success? Let's say you have 1,000 clicks and 10 purchases. Is that something that is abysmal, or I mean, what is the ratio there? What from your historical perspective, knowing what how these things work?
Yeah, I mean it's a great question. It's we talked about setting up goals and measurement of those goals, right? It often depends a lot to me as to the value of what each one of those average value conversions be. If you're a university, and we work with a few locally here, you know, when we're asking about average, and it depends what type of university, when we're asking average, you know, student value that comes to the university, and we got, you know, $25,000. So if you consider, you know, that's their net conversion rate, you would say 10 is probably very good, you know, because so you're always wanting to associate it back to the return on investment. So I typically look at it and say, you know, a good click-through rate is probably above 2%, and then a good conversion rate could be 10%, but it all depends on the industry. So, you know, Google does give us documents that show, you know, whether you're in the legal industry or whether you're in the university education market, what typical models look like. There's also something very, very interesting online called the consumer journey path, and that's a Google attribution model. It's very interesting because you can go in there and you can say we're in education, we're a small school, and we want to look at just the U.S. population. It will show you the types of media that people typically use before they actually make a conversion. And, you know, I would also say that, you know, it's all unique, right? We kind of led off by talking about business and how, you know, one is unique. If, you know, your goals are going to be different than, you know, any of your competitors even, because of, you know, the state of business that you're in and what you're looking for in different audiences. So setting those goals and looking at that, it always comes down to return on investment to me. That's going to be longevity of your relationship. So you want to look at whatever you're putting out in terms of cost. Is that returning investment after you've, you know, subtracted all the costs?
And I have another question unless somebody else has a question.
Go for it.
Yes.
Okay, backlinks.
Yes.
Okay, if you could just expound on that a little bit. I'd like to start creating backlinks on our new website. We are actually acquiring 2 new web presence websites, and I'm not sure exactly what am I backlinking to. Am I backlinking to related content? Am I backlinking to myself? What am I actually, what's the most successful way to backlink?
We look at it based on topical research. So we're looking at, you know, if you're in the education space, we want to make sure it's focused on education. We want to make sure that it's a valuable resource. So if anybody could read any one of these sites along the way and eventually have, you know, a need for what you do, that's topically relevant.
Okay.
So what we typically do is we do research on, and I'll just show you this real quick as a way to just talk about this, but we do all this research, and a lot of it through Google Keyword Planners, is to understand, you know, what people are looking for, what landing page content you have, and what geography. We're looking at search volume trends. So are there peaks and valleys? Is it pretty consistent? You know, and what are the average monthly searches for these types of things? And, you know, what devices do they use? So we're going into it with full eyes open to say, you know, what are the target markets we really want to look at? And then we want to say, are you there now? And if you're not, we want to be there. And then we're looking at, again, the difference between pre-market and in-market buyers and what people are shopping for. So you're more in-market when you're saying, you know, well, college is near me, or what have you. You obviously want to stay close to home, but, you know, you're interested in going to college. So the idea behind that is see who's there. You know, those are your competitors. And then what we do is we take a step further to look into the backlink profiles of those competitors and say, what's topically relevant that has a lot of authority that they're linking to? And let's make sure that they don't have a leg up by having those relationships that you don't. And then through that research, yeah.
Other than really great content, how do you influence others to backlink to your content?
It's a lot easier if you're a business that deals with e-commerce and you've got, you know, manufacturers, which you don't. but you also want to look at associations, certainly for your certification programs and things like that. You really want the research behind it. So when you're doing those searches, see what other sites pop up, see what pops up highly. And then you really have to know a little bit about backlinking to go in and look at the link profiles. But when you do that topical research and you find those link profiles and then you look at those websites and then you, again, find out what sites are linking to those sites, and it's a continuous building strategy. But you're finding out a lot in the research as you go, from the keywords to the competition to the links.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. That's a good question. Anything on the chat? Oh.
Nope, nothing on the chat.
All right.
What were you saying about Home Depot?
Home Depot. So yeah, so I use my mobile device a lot. Don't shoot me if you're a Mets fan, but I'm a Yankee fan, so I like to check up on what's going on with the team. I also live in Pennsylvania, so I don't get the Yankees on TV. So I have to do a lot of research. I have to figure out, who's playing and did they win, and I'm served mobile ads all the time. So the mobile ads are because, I went on to Home Depot and I was looking to buy something or what have you, and they came up with a product listing ad that had the right price. I clicked through and said, okay, I'll either buy this online or I'll go into a store. But they cookied me when I got to their site, and they said, all right, he's interested in our products, so we're going to serve him an ad. That's a relevant ad, right? This is the remarketing ads, and they're serving them on a mobile device. But they didn't check their frequency, because every time I turn on my phone, I get a Home Depot ad. So now I'm a Lowe's fan because, I don't like getting bombarded with ads and ads and ads, specifically from the same company. It's a big turnoff. So you want to really understand and set a frequency of maybe 5 to 7 times you're going to serve that ad before you're not going to serve it again to that audience. And look at the recency and how often you're going to send it to them, because that's a big difference into reaching somebody appropriately and professionally versus bombarding somebody and whacking them over the head with your brand, which nobody likes.
That frequency, is that part of the payment?
So the remarketing.
Remarketing.
Yeah, it depends on how you do it. You can do it 2 ways. If you did it through the Google Display Network, it's on a pay-per-click basis, just like paid search. So your impressions are free. Right. Only when you click is when you pay. And you're going to pay a certain rate for that. And there's other types of marketing which are impression-based. So you'll pay a very small amount, maybe $6 every 1,000 people that see it. So it's either on an impression-based or it's on a click-based. You really got to figure out what platform you're going to use and which is going to make the most sense for you. Good question.
Yeah, I understand that turnoff. It kind of reminds me of going into a mom-and-pop store or boutique where there's no customers. You're the only customer, and there's 3 people pouncing on you.
Yeah, that's a good analogy.
I just want to walk out at that point. I like the anonymity. I don't like to be bombarded.
What's the car dealership scenario?
Yeah,
right? You walk in and you're like,
I know.
You guys seen that? What's is it?
Like, I just got out of my car.
Finding Nemo, where it has all the birds and they're mine. And they just swoop in and attack you.
Yeah.
So it can be brutal, and that's why you want to be very careful about your brand and how it's pushed out to the market. And
on the consumer side, I can turn that off on my computer, right? Prevent ads from coming up?
There are ad blockers you could implement if you knew what you were doing. You can also clear your cookies, and that'll do it.
All right, that's what I need to do.
But it can sometimes be a very arduous process if you
it's hard to
are continuing to go to websites and you're continuing to surf around, and and then you've got multiple browsers open that you didn't realize.
Ad serve, underneath the ad, they have that little icon, little tab. Then you click on it, and then what's the word I'm looking for? Opt out.
Yeah, if you go through the opt-out. Now, I've been through plenty of opt-out processes that says you're opted out, and then I get another ad. Yeah, it's because they just re-cookied me off the opt-out. You know, I don't know, but it's, you know, obviously somebody needs to help them with marketing. Those are usually the people I reach out to and say, I think I can help you. You're going to kill me.
I'll give you some leads then.
I will take. Yeah, right. Exactly. Long way to go. But ultimately, was that helpful?
Very.
Absolutely.
Okay. Good to hear. And certainly we'll be looking for feedback in order to do these again and make them useful for our audiences. Just before we go, was there anything that popped up on the chat or stunned into disbelief?
No, I don't see any questions on the chat. I had one question for you, though.
Oh, shoot.
A couple minutes. Do you have any specific strategies that you recommend for improving domain authority?
Yeah, the backlinking is a big piece to improve domain authority, and you know, we kind of said this, but glossing over it, I look at domain authority like a presidential election, and that might be, you know, a sore spot for some people at this point in time, but it's ongoing. So, so when you look at, you know, a candidate running for president, no matter who the candidate is, you've got a candidate that's going to stand up in front of everybody and say, I'm great, vote for me. I'm the best thing since sliced bread, and, you know, here's what I offer you. That's the same thing as your on-site content, right? And that's one way for the search engine to look at you and say, all right, so you're saying great things about yourself. You're saying I should rank you. You're saying you're great for your audience. You're answering all your users' questions, and, you know, that's great. But, you know, I just can't take your word for it. You know, what are other people saying around the internet that we know are authoritative? So same thing as the president walking down Main Street, you know, shaking hands and kissing babies. And, you know, if you don't really know the candidate, you're going to look at that person and you're going to say, I wonder what my best friend Bob would say about you. And if Bob's a pillar of the community and he's walking around Main Street as well and saying, hey, you got to vote for Ted. And you got to vote for Ted because here's why Ted is great. And since Bob is an authority that people know and like, you know, it's an understanding that when I listen to, I guess, who's Bob, who's Ted? When I listen to the presidential candidate, I'm going to be a little bit more in tune because somebody with authority told me that this is somebody I should speak to. So when I'm looking at authority building, you build that authority by backlinking to strong, well-respected websites that have good domain authority themselves, and then passing that authority from those high-quality domains to my site. So a .edu are looked at as very authoritative because they're in the education space. They are seen at as somewhere where I can't only just go to find out about, you know, entering a college, but I can find out a lot about different certifications and different programs, and it's a learning environment. That's the value of a .edu. So if you had a link from a .edu and they were passing authority from their domain to yours, you would now assume that authority. And that is never gotten by paid links. You have to earn that. So that's why it's that much more authoritative, because the search engines look at it and they say, okay, well, you have earned a lot of authority from these other highly authoritative sites. And now not only are you saying great things about us, about you, but your pillars of the community are also pointing back to you. You're pointing links back, pointing direction back, pointing their users back to you, and saying you should be here. You know, you should arrive at this site. And that ultimately is what the search engines are looking at between your on-site content and your offline brand. Together, they get you what you need organically.
Okay, so in other words, reviewing websites like Yelp will not help domain authority.
It will. Your reviews, your backlinks, your NAP cleanup, anything that's going to point links back to you, just focus on the authority first, right? There are hundreds of different categorical sites and directory sites that house name, address, and phone number information about us that we don't even know about.
Right.
Most of it we don't care about. We only care about the ones that are most authoritative. The ones that are most authoritative, focus on those first, cleaning those up, gaining backlinks from. That's why when we're talking about going into your competitors and seeing what types of links they have, you're looking at the most authoritative sites first. If you can gain links back from those sites that will pass authority to you, automatically you've got good domain authority. Does that help?
Absolutely. Thank you.
Sure.
Excellent.
All right. Well,
Thank you very much.
thank you.
Thank you all for coming. It was very nice meeting you.
Thank you.
Meeting you again and having you here.
Yeah,
Our
I
pleasure.
appreciate
If you didn't grab something to eat, please do. There's so many sandwiches.
it.
I have one more question for you. You
Yes,
mentioned before about also Media Advance also being a publisher.
Yes.
What kind of content do you publish?
Anything on NJ.com, anything on our Condé Nast properties. So we publish all types of content. From Star Ledger is our property.
That's all the newspapers in the state.
Okay.
They're huge.
So-
So you publish newspaper news content.
Publish all types of content. So we have full research strategy teams that do. We've got medical content writers on staff, legal content writers on staff. So it just depends on what you're looking to do as to what we can write about. But
Human
also-
interest stories.
Absolutely.
Community type. Okay.
Those would definitely be news and information that
Okay.
we would push out.
Okay.
But if you ever go on NJ.com, you can see the quality of our work. We've won awards for the types of content that we write, and but we're very agile. So if we're doing content marketing strategies or feel-good stories or news and information, it's all what we do as a publisher.
Okay.
Good question.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was very now I just gotta get savvy enough to
Implement, right?
Well, I'm sure there's definitely people to help.